Right, let me see, I'll make that 8, 9, 9.5 pounds. Well, it's not a fish, that's my tackle bag, and that's the weight I carry around with me, which I try and keep down as low as I can in case I get involved in long walks. Well, just have a look what's inside it now, what I carry with me for a day's fishing. Camera, which is always nice to record something special, or even your first fish or any one given water is nice. Scales obviously a necessity, and keep them well checked. You can do it by getting a bag of sugar or 2 bags of sugar and weighing them just to make sure it's in the right area. Pliers, always useful for nipping leads onto feeders and various things. I only use open-ended feeders of this kind. I weight them according to the flow. The reason I use open-ended is because it deposits the bait in one place as you retrieve. So you put crumb either end, put it on the bottom, when you retrieve, give it a jerk, clear it out, and it keeps your bait nice and tight. The reel is a Machiavel centre pin, 4.5 inch centre pin reel, which I've used all my life. Ideal for playing fish on, and as I can cast as far as I want to with it, I don't need to use a fixable reel. In fact, I've never owned one. The glasses, I'm quite proud of these glasses. I've had these for best part of 30 years. They're the original, actually made by Polaroid, when Polaroid first patented the idea. Not just polarised, they're Polaroid glasses, and I've kept them all this time, and they're brilliant. Weigh sling, obviously, for weighing fish in. Essential part of your tackle. Must have a decent weigh sling. I've got a couple, but always nice to have a weigh sling. This is my only submission to technology, which is a little personal recorder. I record the details. I've had this for sort of 15, 16 years now, but record the details on that, write them in the diary when you get home. Small bait dropper, which is my own design, but it puts a small amount of bait down right in the perfect areas where you want it. An ideal and it's an essential part of my tackle anyway. The knife, which is almost like a filleting knife really, but a nice hand of cutting up, obviously cutting your meat up, cheese up, or whatever bait you're going to use, cutting through bits of line or whatever else. Where's the little headlight? Nice once the light starts to go and you find yourself in the darkness, nice to be able to light up when you're tired, hooks, tying swivels, whatever else. Thermometer, I think it's essential in the winter time, not so much in the summer, it's a bit irrelevant. In the winter it's nice to find out if the water's stable or going up or down or whatever, and it gives you a bit of reassurance when you see the temperature of the water rising. This takes both water and air at the same time. The hooks I use are Drennan carbon feeders. I always used the MC hooks for many years, but they've gone out of production, the ones I liked, and so I've gone to these Drennan carbon feeder hooks, which I think are brilliant. They're very sharp, they're strong. I carry 2 sizes, size 10 and size 6 are the only sizes I use. 6 is for bigger baits, 10 for anything small, even down to a single maggot. I've caught many good barbel on a single maggot on a 10 hook, or a single grain of corn, or a tiny piece of meat. The little terminal bits, I've a little pot of swivels, both clip swivels and straight swivels, and a little pot of centre stops. If and when I decide to use them, I will only use a centre stop if I'm in a situation where I can fish under my rod top and I haven't got to push them on the line too hard. If you're carrying weight like a heavy feeder or a heavy lead and you're doing any casting, you're inclined to want to push these on tighter and tighter, and you'll do the line damage. So I only use them when I'm fishing close in. And the selection of leads and bits and pieces, you know, swan shots, a couple of bits, small shots, small bombs, flattened bombs, and that is it. That is my total, and of course they're all sitting on one towel, which I keep with me all the time. Nice to keep your hands nice and dry and clean, and especially when it's been raining, you're getting your hands wet, nice to wipe yourself down with. So that's the total, all in that bag, and something around about 9 pounds in weight, so I can walk half a mile without getting too knackered, so that I have to have 3 hours sleep when I get to my swim. And that's all I need with me, just a basic outfit, and I don't need to carry any other fancy bits of tackle that are not really useful, and the ones I probably wouldn't use once in 2 seasons of fishing. Now, I don't know in 100 years time how many anglers will remember that the barbel in this country virtually all owe their origins to the River Thames. Most barbel that have been stocked in the last 20, 30, 40 years have all come from Thames genetic original stock. Even the barbel that I use at Calverton for broodfish, for captive breeding, up till very recently, all came from the River Teme. The Teme barbel moved away out of the River Severn, and the Severn barbel was stocked from fish from the Kennet. So you're back to the Thames system again. So the River Thames and its tributaries are responsible for virtually all of the barbel in this country. I say the River Kennet because it's probably the most famous of all the Thames tributaries. But we're going to go off now for spend a bit of time at another famous Thames tributary, and one that was immortalised by Isaac Walton many, many years ago, and it's Hertfordshire's River Lee. You know, it seems incredible to think that it's over 40 years when I stood on the side of this little pool and caught my first ever barbel. That in itself changed the whole of my fishing future. What happened was I'd been fiddling about down the stream, I caught a chub and they'd spooked and all flown away, and I walked up here not with the intention of catching a fish. I had the rod with me, I had a big piece of flake which I clipped on the end of my line, one little swan shot, and I flicked it out into the pool, and I stood the rod about there, just put the rod there and sat back, and I was just generally gazing around at the trees and whatever else and taking in the surrounding area, and when I looked back it was down like that, and I thought it had fallen over. So what I did, I just picked the rod up to put it back there, and it was pulling and it was pulling and it was pulling and it kept on pulling down like that, and I thought, what the hell's happened here? And this fish shot all over the pool, went round there, down there, up here, and I hadn't got a clue what it was, not a single clue. And you know what, as I wound up and I wound the thing into the side, onto this little gravel area there, and I saw it, it was a barbel. It was the first barbel I'd ever seen in the whole of my life. I was only 19, it's back in 1956, and you know, I couldn't believe the power that little fish put up. It was only 3 pounds odd. Anyway, I jumped across there and I got the fish out and I got off the hook. And I ran along the canal just up there to show some friends, ran back and put it back in the water, and then carried on fishing. Needless to say, I didn't get another bite, but that was unimportant. That little fish had done something that no other fish had ever done before. It had gained a respect from me for just something very powerful and quite mysterious. They live on the bottom of the river, you don't see much of them. I'd never given barbel a thought, but when I was asked to do a video of King's Weir, I couldn't do it without coming to this little pool that means so much to me and starting off the film. We're going to move from here now, just along the canal a little way, where the big main King's Weir is, which has changed a bit over the years, but it's still a fascinating pool, full of fish. There's some very good barbel in there, of all sizes. I've caught them from 8 ounces to 12 pounds. It's a second home to me. I only live 10 minutes away. I spend a lot of time here and I do know a bit about the pool, but when I stand here I must say I indulge in a bit of unbridled nostalgia. The reason for that is that it's so vivid in my mind. Every single thing I did, what happened, I can see it all now, and I could be 19 again just for this minute. But come with me now while we go down to the weir, and we're going to look about setting about the barbel down there in the effort to get 1 or 2 for the camera. That thing there, I can't even bear to look. That's a fixed crest weir put in by British Waterway Pool, and it caused all sorts of problems, but there's too much to talk about in the little film today, but horrible thing. But the old wheel's still in place just here. This is the old King's Weir. The gates are now gone, but the pool's still there, a bit dilapidated. It's over 100 years old. That's it, just round here, through the gate, and here's dear old King's Weir pool. Look at it. It's been my home for about 40 odd years. You know, a couple of times a week, every week. But I mean, really, when you think about it, a lovely sort of pool. It's not the greatest for background views. It's a very productive pool. I've had perch to £3 10 ounces. I've had bream to £8. All of my barbel tackle, I don't claim any credit for them, but barbel to 12.4 and plenty of them. So let's look forward to trying getting a couple of fish today, just to have a little peep at the King's Weir inhabitants themselves. They are designated swims, but they're all pre-built and there's not really the option of fishing other places. This is the West Bank, and this swim we're looking at out here is West 1. You can see the weir apron where it's collapsed and fell in, which has left a series of big lumps of concrete and boulders out there. People do fishing and catch fish, but the risk of losing them is quite high. The flow coming back towards this way, they often lay against the broken piles, or down along just the other side of this white foam area is the favourite places for people to put their baits in, but obviously anywhere in the flow you're liable to pick a barbel up. That's West 1. Right, this is West Bank 2. It's in the summertime this is quite low and clear, and it's probably more known for its bream in the summertime. But when the flows are like this in the winter, out on the edge of the flow, can you tell us, Paul, whereabouts are you fishing?
Just about in the middle.
Yeah, is it out in the middle at the edge of the flow? Have you done any good?
I've got two chubs today.
Is there two of my favourites? You know what I mean by that. No, there's some very big chub in here, and for people that like chub or don't mind what they catch, there's some superb fish. I try and keep away from the chub if possible. Where this white foam area is here, about 12 feet out, there's a deep gully that runs over some gravel, and the barbel are inclined to move up that sometime during the day, so that's where I'd pick to fish. But this is West Bank 2. Thanks, Paul.
No problem, mate.
Right behind me, probably in the background, you can see Paul, who I was just talking to, in West Bank 2. This is West Bank 3. Again, it's at the slacker end of the pool, and it's probably not the ideal swim for barbel, especially in the summertime. Perhaps in the last hour when the fish start foraging around the bottom, but mainly people fish here for mixed bags. There's some very big fish in this pool. There's chub to over £6. There's certainly bream up to double figures. And so to people that come just for a general day's fishing, the potential is very good. But this is West Bank 3. Oh, I recognise you, young man. It's Alan Oliver, one of our Barbel Society regional organisers. How are you, Alan?
Yeah, not too bad.
Been here long?
Oh, only about half an hour.
Good, good. What's your tactics for today? This is West Bank 4. What are you planning to do today, Alan?
Right, we're just going to fish just off the edge of the boat there, with a tiny little bit of meat, with a little bit of a crumb feeder.
That's it. Superb. Well, that's the style I'd fish myself. It's a swim that holds a lot of fish under that dead tree that's laying out there, and probably not a swim you'd expect to get multiple catches from, but if you get a fish, Alan, it could well be a good one. I've fished it myself on a couple of occasions, and I've planned to have a little session in myself. Conditions are very good. Wish you all the best, mate. Speak to you later.
Thanks a lot.
That's West Bank 4. This is West Bank 5. The little old punt you can see there. They used to fish from boats about a decade ago here. That's all stopped now. That's one of the punts I used to fish from. I wouldn't fancy fishing from it now. I'd probably better off fishing in it, looking at the amount of water. The fish concentrate, the barbel in this swim, underneath this tree. This is the back of the tree that we saw the front of in swim 4, and you need to be somewhere out where that piece of wood is and put a few droppers down there. There's quite a deep hole, goes underneath the tree, and you know you can pick some good barbel up from there. or alternatively, if you fancy chub fishing, you can go out towards the trees where that coot is, or where that one sitting on its nest there, and there's a lot of chub hanging around with the trees in the water. But that's West Bank 5. This is West Bank 6. If I said to you it's probably the most productive chub swim in the country, I wouldn't be exaggerating. One young fellow had 41 chub in a session out of here, averaging between 3.14 and 5.8. Just out there, between the two lots of branches, there's a huge amount of chub. Also a number of barbels, some very big barbels stay out there. And it's swim number West 6, and it's quite notorious in Kingswear recent history. Over the last few years it's become a tremendous chub swim. Also when the light goes, the barb will creep in close to the edge and pick up the bits that people drop in. It's a very productive swim. If you like chub fishing, you probably couldn't do better than book this for a day. And you'll see in the summertime you fire maggots out across the far bank and the chub are crashing around like dolphins. That's West 6. We're now on the east bank. We're fishing the east one, so you'll see plenty of that one. We're now coming to East Bank 2, which is sometimes called the Bay. One of our regulars over here, Kevin. How you doing, Kevin?
Nothing at the moment, Fred.
Oh, okay, we've got plenty of time yet. This is a nice swim when the water's up high. There's a nice glide through to the tree with a barbel hang about under the tree, and if you want to go out to the middle of the pool, you can mix your chances with barbel, chub and possibly bream. This is East 2. We'll move down to the last one on this side, which is East 3. This is the one they call the Bay, but it's more a swim, I would think, for perhaps chub or bream. Occasionally barbel comes, they come on this, especially as the light starts to go. In the summertime, mainly it's a chub and bream swim. People that come that don't mind what they catch, then they can sit there and probably get themselves a nice big bream or a nice big chub. This is East Bank 3. Okay, right, now I'm going to tackle up now, and this is the most simplest tackle setup you'd ever imagine. I've used it for over 40 years. It's done well for me, over 10,000 barbels, so I'm not going to start changing things now. The only thing is my eyes are now 60 years old and to see these little eyes, but I'll start off by putting a clip swivel on the line, just to run free. Now I'll put a double-ended swivel through there, just a straightforward swivel knot. I don't even know what you call it, but there you are. I'll go around 7 or 8 times like this. Then I need to take the end back through that loop, pull up tight. Now that's the swivel on. Now I need to decide the hook length, and I would suggest that something like probably 15 inches, 18 inches. So I'll take it off of there, excuse my teeth. Now I'm going to tie the swivel back to the main line again, on the opposite end. Through there. Again round 6 or 7 times, like that, that's round there. Back through the loop again, pull up tight, and that's it. Now all that remains me to do now is to put a hook on, and that's the simplest of rigs. Now with my little clip swivel on there, I can put on whatever I like. I can change my leads regular, I can put a feeder on, I can do what I like. And as I'm going to use a feeder, I'll show you what type of feeder I use and why I use it. Right, now I'm going to put my feeder on, and this is the type of feeder I use. It's an open-ended feeder. I've put an extra lead on because I'm going to go out in that fast water. Clip it on your sliding clip swivel, shut it down. Now the idea behind this type of feeder is that you can fill it, you can put it out in position. When you want to recast, you give it a jerk to clear the contents out. You can also put your bait into the end, which I'll show you how to do, and it serves you well in places where you've got heavy ranunculus weed beds and you want to get down the channel in the weeds. I'll put a bit of hook bait on first. Let's try. What I'm going to do, I'm going to sleeve one maggot up the hook, just like that, and then I'll try just a caster, like that. I'll try that to start with. Now it doesn't look a lot, but as I say, small baits in the winter work well. Now with the opening feeder, you put your finger through the centre of the feeder like that, push it onto your crumb, and that's one end. Oh, the rod fell down. That's one end filled up. Then scramble a few maggots and casters into the feeder, and then fill the other end up like that. Now you've got crumb either end, you've got your maggots in the centre, and it's very, very dry crumb. This is, I just damped it slightly, but I want it to come out the bottom. If you're fishing in weed beds, you can put your bait in there like that, and then another little bit of crumb over the top, and now your hook bait's safe inside there. So when you cast into a ranunculus weed, it's not going to get snagged up with the weed, and your hook's going to be hanging up in the air, and you don't know about it. This way you're guaranteed the hook's going to go on the bottom, and as the crumb comes out the end, so will your hook bait. So what I'll do, I'll cast it out just as it is now with a bait inside the feeder, and I know that in time it will wash out on the bottom, and the barbel are liable to hover around the feeder looking for food that comes out of it. So we'll cast out. That's perfect, right out of the fast water. Allow a bit of slack just because of the pressure of the water. I'll just slowly tighten the line up. I don't want to shift the feed off the bottom now, it's in the right spot. Slowly tighten up till your line points towards the feeder, rod on the rest, like that, and then we're ready to go. I like that one of the rings on the feet, the front rest, as you can't fly the water. Drop out there, tighten up. You see they tighten, got a slight bend in the rod. Now that's all ready for the fish to help themselves. That's it. Now it's all down to the barbel. Now I've done my little bit. There's a fish on there now. I think I'll have to pick the rod up. Yeah, that's a barbel. Don't feel a very big one at the moment, but you never know here. Just try to ease it away from the sill a bit. It's not too snaggy out here. I'll try to just keep some pressure on it for the time being. It's out of that fast water. I just don't want it to get right out to flow again if I can help it. I don't think it's a big fish, but it's nice to get a fish. It is mid-February and quite cold, so come on, be beauty. They're very, very angler friendly, but are to me here anyway. Come on, sunshine, let's have a look at you. I never like losing fish, but at least if you lose one, it's nice if you've seen what it is first. Else you have dreams of losing a monster. This ain't a monster, but it's a barbel. There he goes on the top. Come on, sunshine. He's done his best, but I think I'm going to be the winner this time. There he is. Let's get the unlooking mat ready. You need these here because the ground's so rough. But if you put a fish on the ground, it's bound to injure it. So I'll let the rod do the work now. Just hang on to the reel. If it's a bigger fish and makes a sudden dart, then obviously you can let the reel go. But come on, sunshine, open it. That's it. He's in. Oh, that's one to me. Let's put the rod up. out the way. That's it. I do take a bit of line off the reel so I can get him up the bank here. Not a big fish, but first of all we get him out and we get the hook out of it. About 5 or 6 pounds. Nice in the winter when you can't expect too many fish. Look at that. Nicely up there. Now what I'll do, I'll just put him back in the net for a minute. That's it. There you come, sunshine. That's it. Keep him on the mat. Put him across there. Make sure it's all wrapped up. There we are. I said 5 to 6, 5, 5 2. And away he goes. Bring the old waste thing out, get some of the water out of it. We've now moved out of East Bank 1 and we've come into West Bank 4 for an hour or two to have a try against one of the well-known barbel holding snags in the pool. As you can see, it's a sunken tree that's fell into the water a few years back, and it does provide a bit of shelter for the fish, and clearly the fish barbel will tuck under that tree. What I'm just going to do now for a couple of hours is just put a couple of droppers of maggots and a bit of corn down there and a little bit of meat, tiny bits of meat, and I'll probably try 2 or 3 maggots and also I'll try a little square of luncheon meat out there, just this side of where that white foam is, and try and draw a fish out. And there's some good fish under that tree, so hopefully we might pick up something decent. Right, now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try a little piece of meat. I've got a size 10 hook, and what I've done, I've threaded the hook through the meat and just up the line a little way, and now put another little piece on the hook, push the hook through and turn it round and pull the hook down, and then a bit above it I just slide that down the line, and there's 2 little bits of meat with the hook covered. But if a barbel picks it up, it will certainly hook itself. And now I'm going to cast it out with a little 1 ounce bomb against that foam out there underneath the tree, and then leave it. I've got a nice long tail. The idea is that it can drift towards where the fish are under the snag, and I just wait and see what happens. So let's have a go. This is a very astute piece of judgment. I've got to miss the tree but get it close to that foam. Let's have a look. That fell a bit short, so I'll have to do it again. I've already put a couple of droppers of hemp and a few maggots and a couple of little bits of meat out there, so what I need to do now is get the bait in the right place. If it doesn't go right first cast, then cast again. There's no point in sitting here thinking, well, I'm not quite in the right place. You know, get it out where you want it, and you'll feel happy with it. So let's try again. Just like that, and that's perfect. That's dropped down, the flow will take a bit of meat underneath the tree, or underneath where that foam is, and we can set the rod on the rod rest now. I like to keep the rod tip down low, as I explained over in the other swim, just because everybody else puts their rods up in the air. Just tighten up on the weight, and that's it. And now it's just a matter of waiting to see what happens. I'm not expecting to bite in the first 2 minutes. I mean, it takes a bit more for the fish to start moving, but I'm quite confident that the fish will come out and find that piece of meat. Now we just sit and wait for a bite, and the bite will be the same. The rod will go around, the reel will go as you'd normally expect. Right, now we're running the camera now because I've just had a couple of just line bites, just pulled it. There's another one there, so I would expect this rod to go any time now. There's another one there. Yeah, that's just fish. That's a classic. That's a classic fish. Superb. What a cracker. That's going a bit as well underneath that tree. Oh, come on my son. Oh, you can keep the rod down now low because this feels like a good fish. It does. Let's try and get, just go after the first few seconds, stop it from getting underneath that snag. I've only got 6 pound line, so I've got to be a bit reasonable, but the rod's good. Come on my son. That's it, we get it clear. Let's come in. Oh, this feels like a decent fish. Funny enough, the fish that get under these snags, some of the bigger fish lay there. As you see, it's not too late in the day. The time now is about 3:45. So it feels quite a decent fish. They head back towards the tree again, obviously, to get back under cover. I'll keep the rod tipped down low to the water. That'll encourage the fish to stay on the bottom. That way they don't panic so much. If you try and lift them up to the surface, they start to panic and flush around a bit. But we'll ease them up this way slowly. I haven't seen the fish yet, but it feels quite a good one. There are some very good fish in here with a number of doubles. Now it's easing slowly along. It shelves out very slowly, the water. It's only about a foot deep, 10 feet out. So we bring them across the gravel, let the rod do its work. See the action of this lovely cane rod and the real simplicity itself, because it's straight onto the spool. Where are you, my beauty? You adjust the tension on the rod by the reel itself, let the rod do the work, and just use the reel to gain line. Let's have a look where it is now. It's out in front of me now. Let's have a look. Oh, it looks a nice fish. That's a lovely fish. All we don't want to do now is lose it. As I say, it's only a 10 hook, so I don't want to over pressurise it. By the same token, I don't want it on the end too long to totally knacker itself out. Let's keep it down a little bit. Come on, me beauty, in this way. Come on, sunshine. Here we go. There's the depth there, only about a foot deep. Over the net, and we've got it. Lovely, 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 lovely. Now let's have a look. Oh, it's a beautiful fish. That's what it's all about. Look at that, superb. Superb fish, look at that. Let's get the hook out and have a look at it. I think this one's going to go on the scales for certainty. Oh, don't want to lose it. Let's get it out there on the unhooking mat. Release a bit of line. That's it, now we get it out on this mat. That's a beautiful fish. That is a lovely fish. I've had 2 doubles this season out of this. This one could well be my 3rd. Let's have a look. Come on, stay still. Let's get the hook clear. And now we have to just put it back. Then hold just a second while I get the unhooking mat ready. Right, here a minute. Let's get the unhooking mat and see what she weighs. Waist, I should say waistling. Unhooking mat's on the brain. Oh, it's a lovely fish. Darren, could you pass? That's it. Pass my scales over. Now let's have a look. Let's get its head in there safe. Oh dear, this is what it's all about. Right, let's have a look at that now. How they look about right. Let's have a see. There we are, there's the proof of the pudding, look at that. yeah, I'm happy to call that 10, 12. It's flickering either side of the 12, so I'm happy with that. Now let's put it back. Now comes the important part of releasing this fish. It's given me a good bit of fun, and I'll make sure he turns back to give someone else a good day. So leave the net on the bottom of the water, just gently hold the fish like this until you feel it's got some strength back. Right, we lower it gently onto the surface, let it sit on its own weight. Wait till it gains a bit of strength. These are pretty good fish at King, and it will soon be off. I won't let it go just yet because I'm not quite sure of it, but now we release it, and there it goes. That's it, off you go. What a beautiful fish. Wringing wet, but that don't matter. That's a wonderful, wonderful fish for my local fishery. Right, with that cracking fish under my belt, we're going to take our gear to the other side of the pool, back into East 1 swim, and spend a little more time there. There are two choices of where you can put your bait in the East 1 swim. One you've seen under the sill. There's a tree to your left which I'm going to have a little try under. I don't particularly like fishing there because there is always a high risk of losing a fish under the tree. It's a bit rocky underneath the tree, but I'm just going to have a go under there, see how we get on. So, see you on the other side. You can see the dropper I use. It holds, it's probably about sort of 16 of these to a point, so I don't overfeed the place. I put a few casters, maggots mixed, just level filled, and that's it. And you can put sort of 8 or 9 of them down and you're not overdoing it. It doesn't want gallons of maggots this time of the year because you're inclined to give the fish too much. Right, now we've got to get it out of the right spot. Just so to keep the rod clear those little branches at the top of the rod there, they just fail to rot sometimes. That's about right there. Let it sink. And don't pull the drop off the bottom too quickly because you're lifting them up, the maggots up into the current and they'll drift away out of the swim. So just slowly lift it on the bottom. That empties them out in one sort of small area. So you leave little patches of food down, and if you can stop the fish on one of those little patches, you've got your bait in the area, as I say, it's going to be only a matter of time before it'll come across the hook bait. I've got another one. Just ease it off the bottom slowly like that, and I'll just put one off crumb and hemp. A bit of chopped up meat out of this other bucket. And that'll do for a little while. So this needs to be done if you're not catching, or even if you are catching, every hour, just to keep a bit of a, that's a bit too short, that one. Just to keep a bit of bait sprinkled around. So if the fish are active, they will be clearing it up, you know, over a period of time, so you want to make sure there's always some out there. That's it, one right at the back of the hole. It's just ease it off the bottom, then recover. Now I'll put the hook bait back on again. Take the dropper off. Plenty of time yet. That's it, let it sink out there. Now just what activity we got on the rod top. Barbel always inclined to bang the line and bang the make the rod top shake when they grab around the bottom. That's it, the trap's set. Now it's just a matter of waiting. I've got a fish on there. It's going to make for the tree, I'm sure. Let's keep the rod down low and just try to turn his head away from the branches. Not too much of it goes deep down, it's the main stem as I said earlier on. But They like to stay under the cover if they can. Once I get them out to open water, I think we'll be alright. Oh, I've lost it. What a shame. Bugger. So there you are, let's have a look, check the hook. Well, the hook's fine. Almost certainly that fish was foul hooked. What I'm going to do now is going to cut this into tiny squares. It serves a bit of loose feed, and once the fish get used to picking the little squares of meat up, then there's nothing strange about another one, which will be on my hook, and hopefully a barbel will pick it up and we'll get it on the bank. I'm not saying it always works, but certainly they see enough of maggots and bunches of maggots and big lumps of meat. So this is a little bit of a painstaking job. It's worth doing it properly. I don't want no great big lumps out there, so they can get a great big lump, and you know it's barbel's instinctive nature to grab a big lump and swim off with it, go away. And there's a chance if they do it quickly, they'll take other fish with them. So now we've got those little long pieces. All I've got to do now is cut down like that into little squares. It's worth the bit of time it takes, believe you me. I've caught a number of fish on these little squares of meat, and they're quite happy to dig around the bottom, try to pick these little odd bits up, and with a small hook inside, and I'll show you how I put the hook into the little tiny squares. You haven't got to worry about having the hook point out, because they're so small that if a fish picks it up, it's bound to get hooked. There's no way whatsoever can it put any pressure on this little piece of meat with a 10 hook inside it without getting themselves hooked. Well, at least I've never known it. Let's just get a few more little squares cut. I'll do it all. Just give it a go. I don't go into the bucket with a hemp in it. If I put a few droppers out of hemp, I can select how many bits of meat go in the dropper from the bucket without overdoing it. But I believe in putting a mixture of what baits you're going to use out in the dropper. So you can use tiny bits of meat, then put meat out, put some corn out. If you're going to use corn, put a mixture of everything. Just a little banquet on the bottom of bits and pieces, and I'll tip that into the bucket with a hemp pin. To tie a spade on with your fingers without using a hook tie is quite simple. You put a loop in the line, as you would normally do. Put the loop down the shank, so the loop's at the bend end of the hook. Then you just grasp the loop and the bend of the hook, and you start from this end, putting the line around the shank. You need to keep the loose end, this end taut. Start around the shoulder of the hook, just a couple of turns before you then cross over and start to work your way down the shank. And I find about 8 turns is sufficient. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's enough. It might look a bit untidy at the moment there, but that will neaten itself up. Then you take this loose end, put it through the loop, and then I hold this end here in my teeth and put it up tight. Now there's the loose end, and there's the hook. Nice and neat, no fear of it slipping, no fear of it coming undone. And then the loose end, obviously, you just take off close to the hook with a pair of scissors, and there it is. Now I've put a 6 on for demonstration to the camera because it's slightly bigger. I'm going to remove it now and put a size 10 on, again the same sort of hook with a spade end with which I'm going to start to fish. With the open-ended feeder, you need to block the ends up, and I use just plain breadcrumb, rather coarse stuff, and I just dampen it. Just look, see how it is. You know, when you squeeze it, it sticks a bit, but that way it will absorb more water, and as it absorbs more water, it expands a bit and it loosens the end and it falls out. But what you can, I mean, you can be assured of that if it doesn't come out of the feeder in that cast, if you just give it a jerk before you retrieve, you've left a little feeder full of stuff on the bottom, cast back out in the same place, and you know you're always feeding a bit of food into the swim. There's a lovely take there, look at that. Oh yes, we're done. Take the ratchet off the reel. That's a lovely sound. Don't feel a bad fish at the moment. There's quite a bit of flow out there. It's just to ease them, just out the flow a little bit. There's not too many snags here. There's one or two boulders with filamentous algal weed all over them, even this time of the year. Also, there's logs and branches drift over the sill and drop, sink if they're waterlogged, so hopefully you can miss them. Most times you do lose an occasional fish, but if you with a little bit of luck and a nice split cane rod to serve you well, normally get most of them out. I always feel if you lose a fish and you get your hook back in one piece, it's probably foul hooked, because the hooks very seldom slip. If size 10's into its lip properly, they seldom slip out. It feels quite a hefty fish, this. It's still in the current at the moment out there. It's making its way towards the sill now, just trying to ease it a little bit away. That's it, it's coming away a little bit now. So you can keep your rod up, nice bend in the rod, so as it can do the work for you. It's he's got plenty of life in it, this fish. Still the water temperature at 48, and the weather's been quite nice recently, nice and mild, and the fish have got nice and fit. There's no better fed fish than the things where they see people piling food in them all day, every day, right through the season. It's a bonus when you get a big fish here. You can't really target fish. If you get big fish here, it's more by luck, but it feels like it's quite a good fish. If it's hooked in the mouth, which you can never guarantee, it feels if it is. If it is, it could be quite a good fish. It certainly doesn't want to come in, but I'm going to use with £6 line and a 10 hook. I can't overdo it. I certainly don't knacker the fish, that's one thing I don't do. As it eases off a little bit, I'll get it in, start to get it in. I don't want to tie it out till it's dead on its feet. It's still playing up a little bit. It's gradually coming in there though. Might be able to get a glimpse of it soon. I just don't want it to dive underneath that tree to my left. If it makes a move towards that, I'll put the rod down to the right and ease it away a bit. There it comes, yeah, it's a nice fish. It's hooked in the mouth, it's felt like a good fish. It's one for the scales. When I showed you through my tackle, I didn't show you my scales, did I? I must have left them in my bag, but I use Avon scales. I'll get it in the net now. Right, let's take another dive. That's what you got to do. With the centre pin reel, I can just let the reel go. So it's not going to rip the rod out of my hand or pull the rod down so low that I'll lose it. Come on, sunshine. They're inclined to do that. You know, you think they're beaten, they come to the top and lay just for a second or two and you get this false sense of security. You get your net all ready and they suddenly dive off again. So you can expect that. Come on, son. That's it, that's safely in. That's in the net. And it looks a good fish again. Just put my rod down. Now, there's a little sequence we have to go through now to make sure you get things right. First of all, you must have your unhooking mat ready before you lift the fish out of the water. Then lift it out, place it nice and carefully on the net. This looks a good fish. It's safely on the net, on the mat. Got a couple of bruises on it there. There's the hook, my little 10 hook. Now I'm going to put it back in the water now, just to let it have a rest while I get my scales ready. I'll get him out. Steady on, fella. There we go. On there. We're not all big barbel or female barbel, but I can assure you and tell you quite categorically that I've seen a fish over 9 pounds a male because it had spawning tubercles on his head and only males get them. Now let's see what it weighs. I suggest it's over 8, probably 9. That's a lovely fish, isn't it, for my local water? And let's hope one day it might make 12 pounds. Now, I'm going to leave it in the weigh sling, but I'm going to take it, put it back in the side of the swim. It wants to go back quicker than I want it to go. So there he is. It's got a bit of a bruise on its tail there. Nice and podgy. Not surprising for all the food they get here, but right, there he is. A nice example of a King's Weir barbel. Not quite a double, but that does meet. Now we'll slip him back and I'll hold on to him for a minute. They soon recover this time of the year, and away he goes. Oh, that's a lovely bite. That's a lovely take, that is. That's music to hear. Look, it's gone out in the middle of the pool somewhere. Let's get the ratchet off. There you go, my son. Going down the current a little bit. Feels like a bit of weed on the line as well, but it's nice to get a take like that. That's what I fish for. A lovely rasping bite. Of course, it's the bite is just a shake of the rod. The rattling off of the reel is the fish doing what all wild animals do when they're in trouble. They flee. Oh, I've lost that fish. Let's check me up, see what's going on with that. Well, that's done me up. Well, the sky's filling in a little bit now. The forecast was for dry weather, but it's getting a bit grey overhead. That's not a problem. Get this, you can get fish in the sunlight here, but the cloud probably make it even better. Just hope it stays dry, but it's certainly getting a bit darker. Well, I'm still fishing, but the sky's filled in and it's sprung a few leaks now, and it's beginning to rain quite heavily. We've had a good session here really. We've had fish from over that side and a couple from here, and they've been good quality fish as well. It does show you that with a bit of careful loose feeding and small hook baits, you can catch barbel in the winter time. I know the water's been not all that cold, and it does get a lot colder, but they're good fish I've caught, and nothing spectacular in the style. It's a fairly basic style, but I hope you've enjoyed it. And in the summer it's a slightly different approach, and we're going to go down onto the River Kennet in the summertime and do another video of the summer style of fishing, and hopefully have some more fish to show you. Well, we've got the camera crew jumping up and down, shouting they weren't paying double time, but who are they to deny you the last piece of action? We've hooked a fish now, and this image is one that you'll be quite familiar with. It's one that you'll see right across the barbel fishing country as the night takes over from day and you hook a fish in the fading light. We'll keep the camera on. The light's very poor, but at least hopefully we'll see another Kingswear barbel. It gives me a chance to speak a little bit more about Kingswear in winter and barbel fishing in general in winter. What you'll find is that ideally you need 2 or 3 weeks of really cold weather when the water temperature goes to sort of low 30s, and then as soon as you get a mild spell and the temperature lifts in the water, the fish are more than willing to feed. I've had 3 or 4 weeks when anglers haven't been out and plying them with food, and there's been no natural food about, and therefore their intestines start to empty and they need to refill them. And so ideally you want this long cold spell to put them off for a little while. This year we've not had that. We've had a peculiar year, and it's been very mild right through the winter, only for very short spells at a time, and the water temperatures have been hovering around 40 to 45 for quite some time now. And what that does mean is that the fish's natural caution is still in full force, and they've been eating on a regular basis, and therefore they're not so hungry and they're not as easy to fall. But hopefully we've managed to show you a few fish, and you recall we've had fish of 5'2", 8'12", 10'12", and the fish now coming out of the water is 9'2". And so with the right approach, small baits, and a bit of thought, you can catch fish when the conditions are against you. And believe you me, Kingswear is one of the most heavily fished waters in the country, and if you can catch barbel at Kingswear that have seen it all, done it all, and worn the t-shirt, then you can feel confident that anywhere else you go, you can put those methods to the test and they'll prove successful. They have done for me for many years now, and I haven't never changed my style. So we're going to leave you with a picture of a lovely, fat Kingswear barbel, and this fish will now continue to feed, although we're going to stop fishing in the not too distant future. It'll continue to feed until the June spawning time comes around, or late May, and hopefully produce some young offspring to retop the water up for years to come. So now we say goodbye and look forward to seeing you in the summer.